Shane, thanks so much for taking time to talk about legacy planning and estate planning. And as you know, everyone else doesn't know yet, but you're my favorite client. But let's keep that between us. Um, you've had a fantastic career in business, obviously basketball. When you think about your legacy, what's important to you?
That's a big question. It's a meaty question. I've always been that kid from Birmingham, Michigan, who made good, who had big dreams, who had a bunch of love in my household and supportive people around me. But look, I've outkicked my coverage and lived all of my dreams. Having a 13-year MBA career, marrying my high school sweetheart, having two wonderful kids, having financial stability, and so. Um, I've won the first half life, whatever you call it. And so now, as I look for the second half of my life, it's about how do I take my past successes and all the dreams I've achieved, and how do I impact people for the positive going forward, and not only my children, but my communities at large. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And so legacy is something I take very seriously, and I want to do it right and be able to impact the people that are going to follow me a long time after I'm gone from this world.
You said I've had some financial success. I mean, I think you've had more than some financial success and have built up a significant amount of wealth. When you think about where you're going to leave that wealth and how it's going to impact others, what are your wishes and what are the things you wish not to happen? Because as we talked about before we got on camera, money can get weaponized.
Absolutely. I grew up in a household where I learned the phrase "rob Peter to pay Paul" as a young person, and so from a family that lived paycheck to paycheck, literally, to the point where I am today, where I'm reading the journal and checking on my portfolio. I kind of stop and wonder, like, how did I get here? And I often think about the education that came along with that. And I learned a lot of hard lessons. Right? Luckily, none that were fatal. But even as someone who went to Duke University and intern on Wall Street, I've still made a lot of mistakes. And so uh, I've learned to humble myself, surround yourself with really smart people like yourself, Steve, and learn about what's the best way to look at money, and what's the best way to conceptualize the power of money. And money is a tool. That's all it is. And I tell my kids all the time, money allows you to do one thing. It allows you to spend your time with who you want, how you want, for how long you want. And that is the power of wealth building. And that's the main lesson I want to give to my kids and the people in my foundation and young people, that it's a tool. That's all it is. And just like a hammer, it's how you wield it. It can be destructive, and you can break things, or you can construct beautiful things like the Sistine Chapel with it. And so understanding the power and the danger of money is a unbelievable place to start when you're learning about money on this journey.
It started out in the NBA. You had to be with a bunch of guys who were making money very, very early in their adult lives. What are some of the things that you saw that were negative influences, things that you might want to protect against, and how does that influence what you want to do with respect to your children?
Most people, as soon as they got a paycheck, went out and they bought a fancy car. They bought homes for their family members. They bought jewelry, and so you read a lot of stories and heard a lot of stories in the locker room of guys who didn't have any money after even a 10+ career in professional sports. And I was terrified to be that guy. I was terrified. I didn't want to be that guy. I worked all my life to make my dreams come true, reach the NBA. I wasn't going back. I wasn't going back. And so, um, you know, the thing about being a professional athlete And I would say this holds true for being a entertainer or anybody who really has had great success under 30. You're sort of told you're kind of this like warrior class, and you're not allowed to show weakness. And if you show mental weakness or softness or psychological weakness, emotional weakness, you're taught in so many, in no uncertain terms that someone's going to take your dream away from you. So you learn to put up walls around yourself and project this really tough image that I'm impenetrable, that I have no weakness. Well, the funny thing is that extends to like financial literacy. And so the stories of all these athletes and entertainers who have amazing success going broke is real because they're incapable, and I was guilty of this too, of saying, "Hey, I don't understand what a basis point is. I don't understand what the S&P 500 is. I don't understand what estate taxes are." And so a lot of young people, a lot of successful young people, because they don't want to look like they have weakness, will go down with the ship rather than being humble, asking questions, and getting to the right answer for their career and their wealth.
When I think about my kids, I want to make sure they're armed for success for their entire lives. And my kids are a little older than your kids, but your kids are about to embark on this journey. And what is it that you want to convey to them so that they're prepared for life?
My parents, lovely, lovely people, they worked their entire life. They weren't super educated, especially when it came to finance. And so, I had to learn a lot of hard lessons on my own. And so, if I could teach them one thing about money, teach my own kids one thing about money that I wish I was taught on the way up is that you almost have to treat your wealth like a family member. And when I say it like that, you have to take care of it. You have to think about it. You have to make sure that it's nurtured. You have to make sure that someone's watching over it and making sure it's safe and it's allowed to grow in a healthy way, not in a destructive way. And so, in the world of get quick rich schemes and hey, let's do crazy things. Like you never treat your little brother that way. You never treat your family member like that. You want your wealth, just like your family, in a very safe, nourishing place where it can grow organically, naturally. And if you have that sort of mindset, you're going to take time to become educated. You're going to take time to learn, well, why am I invested in this? Or why is my estate planning structured like this? And that is the biggest takeaway that I have taken away from my mentors and role models is that I've learned more about my estate and planning and my wealth. Treat your money like a family member, and it tends to turn out much better with that mindset.
Well, when we first started, I don't want to obviously get into too much specifics about your plan, but I'd say you had two components. You had a more traditional plan that, was per stirpital. It just got divided up by the number of kids and their kids, et cetera. And we ultimately refined that to have more of a pot trust that's sprinkled out. And so I want to take a minute and have you explain what caused that transition. But I also remember for other people that weren't your kids, you were very, very thoughtful about how things trickled out to them and to not create sudden wealth, to make sure that the things that were important to you basically happened. And I think you minimized, we were one of the things we were talking about earlier is how you're the defensive player of the year and being defensive oriented. I think that planning for those other heirs was very defensive to make sure that we won, we accomplished what we want to accomplish, but we didn't put ourselves in a position where it could hurt. So if you could spend a minute on one, the transition from the per stirpital planning more to that, what we've called the family bank. And then two, how you were thoughtful about other people that were part of your estate plan and to ensure that they had a successful outcome.
Yeah, well, my initial estate planning was designed just to make sure that if something were to happen to me, that my family would be able to take care of themselves, right? And so, uh, the old bus problem. If I get hit by a bus tomorrow, would my family be taken care of? And through a series of life insurance policies and beneficiaries for my investment accounts, I just wanted to sleep well at night. Okay. And I knew at that point, like that probably wasn't the best way to do it, but it was just, I had to start somewhere, and that's where I started. And as I got older and realized that the assets had grown and the estate had grown, now it was time to be a little more thoughtful. How does wealth get distributed? How should my kids look at the wealth that I created? And what does that mean for all of my beneficiaries when I pass away? And so, if you know me, I'm very very deliberate. All right, I'm a defender by trade. All right, two-time NBA all defensive team. All right, so I'm always thinking defense first. But it's a meaty question. What's the right way? What's the right way to think about your beneficiaries? What's the right way to distribute your estate when you're no longer there? And um, look, I talked to a ton of people just to get ideas and flavors, and there's no right or wrong answer to this. And the overarching theme, at least for my kids and my family, is like, look, you don't want to screw them up. You don't want to just give them a boatload of money and say, hey, good luck, God bless, figure it out, and I'm not here to help you. And so, um, it goes back to, you know, can you create a safe environment for your family and your beneficiaries without screwing them up, right? And we both work with a gentleman who's very very smart, and he always comes to back to the theme of we have to be able to allow our kids to fail well, right?
Yep.
And failure is part of what makes us human. And I wouldn't be here today if I didn't fail multiple times, but I was never in a position to fail fatally. I was able to fail safely. And so when it comes to wealth and wealth distribution and estate distribution, coming up with a structure where my kids are allowed to make mistakes, allow themselves to learn, to become educated, but not at a level that's going to cripple them for the future, and allow them to take chances. Look, I've worked hard, so if one day my kids want to start a business, they should be able to. And for me to be able to do the things that my parents weren't able to do for me, that's the fun part of all this. And it's why we go through great deals to make sure our structures are sound and efficient and make sense. But at a time, it's not over the top and egregious. And so, I think I have a very good plan for my kids that are in line with my values, my wife's values, of allowing my kids to fail in a safe way, to learn, and to be able to help other people. Because that's the family core values that we have, and I hope that's the way they look at their estate when they're going through the same questions one day, just like my wife and I did.
What is your feeling about safety? What is a safe amount of failure? How much do we want the wealth that we created in our generation to protect the next generation? And then the second part of that question is, how important is it to you that that goes on? Because if our kids waste what we've built, then it won't be there for their kids and their kids afterwards. So I guess the essence is, what's safe, what's too safe, and what do you think about generational planning? How important is it to you that this is around?
No, but the best insurance policy you can ever give your family is an education. Okay, so that's where we started. Like our kids' education will always be paid for, their kids' education will always be paid for, and so we hope that the one common theme, and whether that's through the Battier Take Charge Foundation, whatever, to provide people with education to learn. That is how you better yourself. That is how you unlock all your dreams, right? And so, if nothing else, our kids are going to be educated. All right. If the world goes to hell, they will be educated. That's the baseline. Now, after that, now you talk about self-realization. right? And now, and that's where it kind of falls back upon my wife and I. We talked about this a lot. Like, look, if we haven't raised kids that have a worldview, who care about other people, who care about, hey, how can I bring people along with me on my journey, then we failed. And it doesn't matter what we have, what kind of structure we have in our estate planning. Um, Nothing will be able to make them have a worldly view and awareness of like, hey, look, it's my job, regardless of how much wealth I have, to help other people, right? And so the onus goes back on us now as we're raising teenagers to have that worldview. And once you have that worldview, I think we've done a pretty good job of that, and time will tell. But okay, what is the best way to equip our kids to have that worldview? And for us having a philanthropy component to our estate planning, not only for ourselves but attached to our kids' disbursement, was very, very important. Um, and they could be selfish jerks and say, "Well, mom and dad are making this. Donate X amount of our distribution to charity," but they got to think about it. They got to think about it, and hopefully with our parenting that's meaningful, and you create this flywheel of philanthropy and helping people behind you. But we would love for our kids to be risk takers, and in a good way. And if they have an idea and want to be entrepreneurs, I would love to be able to support them through our estate planning. If they want to choose a profession that doesn't pay a lot, like being a teacher or an artist, we want them to pursue their dreams without feeling they're being penalized by a profession that doesn't pay very much. And so, again, the money's a tool, and allowing not only myself but my kids to spend their time with who they want, how they want, for how long they want, and whatever that looks like. And if we've done our jobs as parents and have raised solid citizens who care about the world, care about getting better, contributing, like in our mind's eye, like that's the ideal situation. And time will tell, but we feel because of the transparency we have in our estate planning, the efficiency in our estate planning, we're going to give our kids the best chance to live that ideal picture when we pass.
Young NBA player, young business person, one of the folks that you sponsored who went on to school and become successful says to you, Shane, someone told me I got to do my estate plan. I don't even know what that means. Like, what should I do? What are the important things that you want to convey to people who are just starting to estate plan and as their wealth is starting to do this?
I would say talk to as many people as you can that are, maybe a few years ahead of you, whether it's a boss or a mentor. In professional athletics, it's easy. I tell the young guys to say, go to all the people who sit in the front row and ask them, hey, can I take you to lunch? And I want to learn about estate
Smart.
planning. Teach me. And I promise you, 9 out of 10 people will give you more time than they have to give to explain what they do and why it's important, right? And if it's important to them, it should be important to you. And so for anybody, find a cohort and just talk and demystify the terms and demystify like what it is and what it's not. And if you talk to enough folks, you get an idea of, okay, this is kind of my philosophy and this is kind of what I want to do. And this is what's important to me. And it's the one place where you can really take your core values and put it on a document, and legally you can sort of live out those core values. And why wouldn't you, when you're dealing with your family and your friend, the cause that you care about, why wouldn't you do that? So talk to as many successful folks that have been through this process, have thought about it, because it will only help you as you form your own philosophy.
It's great advice. And what I really took out of that is get floor seats so I can talk to smart people. But no, seriously, that's great advice. Look, you're a friend, you're a client. I've really enjoyed our relationship. You're one of the smarter guys I know. So thanks for taking the time to convey your thoughts to the people that are watching.
Well, Steve, you are a friend, and although we work together, you are one of the smartest people that I know, and you're an angel sent from above. that have got my family in a great spot. So I'm appreciative and grateful of you. Thank you.